What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Alolan DataDex with me, TheOneIntegral. In the last episode we covered the bug fairy type Ribombee, and I gave you a choice of two dragons. We had Turtonator and we had Drampa, and Drampa came out on top. So that's who we'll be covering today, but we have episode 129 to decide on first, and the vote is going to be between a ghost type and a dragon type. We have Dhelmise and we have Kommo-o. So we have Dhelmise on its own, the ghost grass type, or we have Kommo-o, the dragon fighting type. Which one would you like to see cover next episode? Comment down below either Dhelmise or Kommo-o, and obviously which one has the most votes will be covered next episode. But for now, let's jump in and have a look at Drampa. So Drampa is number 780 in the National Pokédex, is the Placid Pokemon and a normal dragon type. It's 9 feet 10 inches or 3 meters large, that's probably the length of its neck included, and weighs 407.9 pounds or 185 kilograms, so it's a pretty big dragon. It's in the monster and dragon egg groups, and the male-female split is a simple 50-50, and following on the evolution chain doesn't evolve from or into any of the Pokemon, so it's as simple as that. Looking at its base stats, you can see its highest base stat is special attack at a staggering 135, so it's no surprise this thing is a special attacker. Moving further down the chain then you have special defense at 91, defense at 85, health points at 78, attack at 60, and finally speed at 36, so like a lot of Pokemon in Generation 7, not that fast, but mainly focused on doing a lot of damage. In terms of its defenses, they're not stellar, but they are decent, so they should be able to manage you, and its health points aren't amazing either, but its main purpose is doing a lot of damage. Ability wise, it supports this in some aspects. First up we have a unique ability to it, Berserk, which boosts its special attack stat when it takes a hit that causes its health points to become half or less. So similar to Emergency Exit and Wimp Out for Golisopod and Wimpod, as well as Minior's Shield Down. Once you hit 50% health, you get a special attack boost basically. So it's the opposite of Defeatist basically. Defeatist lowers your attack when you get down there to low health, whereas this one boosts it a bit for you, and it can happen multiple times. That just means you have to raise your health points back above 50% after it drops below. This only happens, you only get the boost if you actually take damage from an attack, so when it takes a hit that causes health points to become half or less, so Leech Seed doesn't help it and stuff like that really, so you have to be careful in terms of what you take damage from basically. Its other abilities are first up Sap Sipper, which obviously makes you basically immune to grass type moves, and also boosts your physical attack stat, but of course Drampa's not really a physical attacker, so it wouldn't be too helpful to you. And the hidden ability is Cloud 9, which eliminates the effects of weather, which is half decent but really not a hugely impactful ability, so generally Berserk is your best option. Being a normal dragon type, the typing isn't amazing, but I guess it offers some decent resistances. Obviously it's grass, fire, water and electric, the standard dragon type resistances. It does have a few weaknesses though, of course. Fighting from the normal type and then ice, dragon and fairy from the dragon typing. It is immune to the ghost types because it's past part normal type, but apart from that really, obviously taking neutral from all the other typings, not very good type. I mean generally, 4 resistances, 4 weaknesses and an immunity. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either. So the moves, there are actually quite a lot of moves you can use with Drampa because of its it's got a huge move pool basically. So a few level ups. To start we have level 37 Extra Sensory, which is obviously a psychic type attack move, whatever you want to call it. 80 damage, so not quite as powerful as psychic. I don't believe it gets that via TM, hence why we have Extra Sensory. Obviously it's not as powerful as psychic, but it does have the chance to flinch the opponent, so there is that to it. It's not a huge chance, but there it is. It's there. Then we have level 41 Dragon Pulse. It's obviously a stab move for you. We're a special attacker. It's not the most powerful one you can get. We'll look at that later on, but it still does this damage 85, so it's definitely an option. And then finally we have Hyper Voice at level 49. Being a normal type, you do get stab on this, so it is possible to run it. Generally we'll look at other moves though, because of course we want the coverage and super effective hits as opposed to just getting stabbed, because generally a super effective non-stab is more powerful than a normal or resisted stab normal. Whatever. So yeah, it's a possibility, but generally we'll look at other things to use. TMs then, we have TM4 Calm Mind. Being a special attacker, why not? And as well as this, your special defense is reasonably decent, you could build on it, so it's definitely possible to run Calm Mind on it. Then we have TM13 Ice Beam, in case you run into any of the dragons or any of the flying types for example that you might want to deal with. The ice attack is there for your options. Then we have TM19 Roost. Now this of course can be comboed with your Berserk ability, so you can predict that you're going to drop below half health points, and then you're going to say I'm going to roost, so you drop below and then you roost back up, and of course then the next time you drop below you get another boost, and you can chain them that way. Of course you just have to make sure that your opponent doesn't get wise to it basically and predict these sorts of things. Then some electric type moves, we have TM24 Thunderbolt as well as TM25's Thunder. Thunderbolt does less damage obviously, but Thunder has obviously terrible accuracy, but we will use it in a set later on, so prepare yourselves for that. Then we have some fire type moves, TM35 Flamethrower and TM38 Fire Blast. Of course, similar sort of setup here. Flamethrower has less damage but more accuracy, so it depends. It's obviously this one's more of a do you want power or do you want accuracy. It's not as bad accuracy as Thunder at 70. It's actually 85%, which is usable because obviously it does more damage, so those are your options there. Then moving on, for the last few TMs, we have TM52 Focus Blast, very powerful fighting type move. Of course, it's not as accurate as Fire Blast at 70, so it's really not hugely reliable, but you can use it for a nice chunk of damage. TM90 Substitute is also there. This can be used to some effect if you go for more of a bulky setup, but we won't be seeing too much. And then one final TM here is Surf at TM94. Of course, it's a water type attack. Why not think about running it? It's 90 base power, pretty good coverage, I'd say. Then we have a tutor move, of course, which is Draco Meteor. You were expecting that. More powerful than Dragon Pulse, but slightly less accurate, and of course it lowers your special attack by 2 stages as well, so this is a possibility to run to do a lot of damage in one, but of course it won't keep up with consistent damage. One final move then for Drampa is Hurricane. Flying type move is also an egg move, 110 base stat power, 70% accuracy again, so very bad like Thunder, but we can use it and we'll see how in a minute basically. So looking at the sets, we're actually going to have 3 sets to look at. The first one is going to sort of look to make the most use out of Berserk that possible, just to get a lot of Berserk sort of hits rolling. Then we have more of a all-out attacking set, generic general attacking set, just to do damage, not have to worry about proccing the Berserk. And then one final one is a weather set. So we're going to start off with the first move set. We're going to have Calm Mind, Roost, Dragon Pulse, and then Hyper Voice or Flamethrower. Ability is Berserk, of course. Nature is a bold one. Held item is Leftovers or Weakness Policy. And the EVs we have maximum health points and defense, and the last few in special attack. So the idea here, as I mentioned, is to get the most use out of Berserk. Hence why we have the option to run a Weakness Policy, because the idea is you try and get hit by a super effective move, you get +2 special attack from that, you get +1 special attack from dropping below half health points, and you can sort of keep on going like that. But generally looking at the moves that we have Calm Mind, which of course you could say, right, I'm gonna wait until I drop below half and then I'm gonna start attacking. So Calm Mind gives you some boosts to begin with. Then you have Roost to try and, as I mentioned, chain those so you can keep going, predict that you're going to drop below half health points, roost up, etc. and keep on going like that. And then finally we have Dragon Pulse and then Hyper Voice or Flamethrower as 2 attacking moves, so you can either have 2 stabs or a stab and a coverage basically. Berserk of course is the ability we're focusing around here, but the bold nature of course will boost our physical defense, lower our physical attack. Since we're not really bothered about that, we're not using it at all, we're focusing on shoring up that physical defense to make it just as well, because obviously we have Calm Mind to shore up our special defense. The choice of Leftovers or Weakness Policy depends whether you want to rely on being hit by a super effective attack to boost yourself even higher. That means you maybe put yourself at risk of being taken out once you've actually taken one attack, because it might take down to 50% in one and you have to deal with that obviously. But Leftovers is the more safe route, I suppose you could say. You're going to get less damage out of it, but you still have it there. And the EVs we have maximum health points for a bulk, because we need to survive moves to be able to get that Weakness Policy hit off, to get a couple of Calm Mind set up, and obviously to proc our Berserk and not die straight afterwards, because obviously our speed isn't the best. And the rest go in defense, as I mentioned, because we're going to shore up our special defense using Calm Mind. So the idea here is you switch in, you Calm Mind maybe once, maybe twice, depending on, if they switch out, of course you get a free Calm Mind then, you can say, okay, they're not going to take it down to half in one, I'm going to Calm Mind once more. And then the thing you want to do is you want to predict the drop down past 50%, you want to predict getting to low health points, and then you roost on that same turn, so they attack you, they get you down to maybe 35% health points, you roost up, you're up to 85% health points, you've gotten the Berserk boost, and of course you are still fairly healthy, so you can then go on and attack, because obviously if you didn't do the roost, you drop down to 35% health points, you get the boost, cool, but they're faster than you most likely because you are a fairly slow Pokemon, so of course you then have to hope you can survive another attack, which of course isn't the best, whereas if you're 85% health points after getting the boost, you can then jump in and attack straight away as they hit you down to below 50% again, and you can carry on attacking with even more power. So once you've got at least one Calm Mind, that's 1 special attack boost. If you're running Weakness Policy, once you get hit by a super effective move, if possible it's up to 3. Dropping down to that, Berserk gets you another boost, that's up to 4, and you're going to get a lot of damage after just 1 or 2, so really it's quite effective. Even with just the leftovers and then the Berserk and the Calm Mind, you're still going to do a lot of damage after those 2 boosts, so it can be very effective if you use it in that sort of way. And of course with that high defense you're giving yourself and the high special defense you get from a Calm Mind or 2, you can definitely survive some chunky hits. So moving on to the second set, as I mentioned, it's sort of all out attacking. So we have, in terms of moves, Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor, Hyper Voice, Ice Beam, Calm Mind or Extra Sensory, and then Thunderbolt, Fire Blast or Focus Blast. Ability is Berserk once more because it's generally the best of the 3. Nature is a quiet one this time, and the held item can be a Life Orb, it can be a Choice Specs, or it can be a Normalium Z. EV wise we have maximum health points and special attack, and then 4 in physical defense. So what's this all about here? Well, so in terms of moves, first up of course we have Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor as a Dragon Stab, the choice of which is up to you, whether you want to go in and fire a huge nuke off with Draco Meteor or say consistent damage with Dragon Pulse. Then you have Hyper Voice, which is obviously your second stab, does decent damage. You could switch out for another coverage move. The idea here is you can use Hyper Voice whenever you don't have a super effective move to deal a lot of damage while not necessarily using your special attack from Draco Meteor. Then we have Ice Beam, Calm Mind, Extra Sensory. Of course you could go for 4 attacks. If you're going for choice specs you will have to. If you're not, of course, you can switch out Ice Beam for Calm Mind and you can go for a Life Orb instead, or you go for a Normalium Z for example. Extra Sensory is there as more, more coverage again, and then in the last slot Thunderbolt, Fire Blast or Focus Blast again. It's just different coverage, it depends what you need on your team. In terms of the quiet nature, this actually boosts your special attack by lowering your speed, because this is a set designed to be used in a trick room. Because of your low speed you can't really go for an all-out attacking set, because you can't rely on getting those attacks off because you'll be dead before you hit them. So the idea here is to use a trick room, you're then really fast, and then you can start smashing it. Maybe Calm Mind once or twice, and then you set your trick room up if you can. I don't know if you how you do so, it depends on doubles or whatever, and then you can start firing off your damage, for example. In terms of the held item choice, Life Orb is decent damage over time, but of course you're going to die quicker. Choice specs is I'm using 4 attacking moves, I'm not using choice Calm Mind for example, so I'm going to use choice specs and I'm going to just fire off damage as well. Obviously that works quite well with Draco Meteor, because a Draco Meteor choice specs is pretty damn powerful, so you wouldn't really wouldn't really think about I'm going to stay in for like 5 turns, you just stay in for 1 and switch out. Or you can run Normalium Z, this of course can be switched out for a Dragonium Z to get your other stab off. The idea here is just firing off 1 really powerful attack every now and again. So Hyper Voice for example obviously would be the Normalium Z. If you're not running Hyper Voice, of course you'd have to switch it out for something else. I'd recommend Dragonium Z, because if you combo that with Draco Meteor, it means you can use a really powerful Draco Meteor, Dragonium Z, Z power Draco Meteor, which does a lot of damage, and you don't get the special attack drops from it. So it would do quite a lot, and it'd be really good for one-off nukes. So definitely think about using that. EV wise, we have maximum health points to give us overall bulk. Since we're not a fast Pokemon, we want to reduce our speed here, so if possible on this set you want a speed IV of 0 to be as slow as possible. And the special attack is 252 again, the maximum again, because obviously we're going to do a lot of damage, and the last few in defense, because that's the worst of the 2 defenses, just shoring it up slightly. So as I mentioned, it's a trick room set really. You can switch the nature out for something that's not going to reduce your speed if you really are not wanting to use a trick room, so you could go just for a modest nature for example, or maybe even just switch to defensive on this set, slightly more defensive, and then work it like that. But generally if you're using a trick room, you have the trick room set up, you come in, you just start attacking basically. You're going to be the fastest on the sort of the field. If you have a Z move, you could go for the one-off nuke to get rid of something, so you could set the trick room up and then you have a guaranteed 1-hit kill on something, if you really want to see it like that, unless they have a fairy type for example, or something like that. You just have to think about it in those sorts of cases. But yeah, that's it for the second set. So let's move on to the last set, which is I actually quite like it. It's a weather set, so it's designed for use in the rain. As such, the moveset is Dragon Pulse, Surf, Roost or Substitute, Thunder or Thunderbolt, and then Hurricane. Ability is Berserk, or you can use Sap Sipper in this instance as well. Nature is indeed a modest this time, and the held item can be Life Orb or it can be Leftovers, with EVs being maximum health points and special attack again, as well as the last few in physical defense. So as mentioned, it is designed for use in the rain, hence the appearance of Thunder and Hurricane, because of course in the rain those both get accuracies of 100%, so you can fire off really quite powerful attacks. Thunder and Hurricane, boom, 100% of the time as long as the rain's up. Surf is an option we have listed here, because of course that gets boosted in the rain, will do even more damage. And of course Dragon Pulse is one of your main stabs basically. So whether you choose Roost or Substitute is dependent on how you want to play it. If you want to go for slightly more defensive, you can go for Roost or Substitute and combine that with Leftovers. If you want to go for just full out offensive, of course you go for Surf and just go for a Life Orb. The Thunderbolt option is there because of course if you don't want to run it, run the Thunder, because then you have to be in the rain basically to do some decent damage with those attacks. You could run Thunderbolt as an option. You could say I'm going to have Thunderbolt as a secondary attacking move or tertiary attacking move, and then Hurricane could be just for when it is raining. Or you can say I'm only going to use this thing when it's raining, I'm going to go for Thunder. So that's the option of that. The choice between Berserk or Sap Sipper is really dependent on what you want to go for. You don't want to rely too much with this set about powering up, using Berserk. If you're using a Roost, however, you could definitely think about doing it and training it a bit before you start throwing off those attacks. But the trouble is, if you spend 2-3 turns in battle, doing an attack, roosting, and then getting a Berserk off, you just wasted those turns of rain. And of course, if you're not setting up the rain, then you have to switch out again, and you lose those boosts anyway. So really that's the reason we're not running Berserk here, because when you get in, you just want to start doing the damage straight away. You don't have to spend turns setting up and roosting and calm minding. You just want to start doing the attack and doing the damage when we have the Hurricane and the Thunder at our disposal. So Sap Sipper is the next best ability after that, and of course this makes you immune to grass type attacks. Basically, it does increase your physical attack, which we can't use, but the immunity is, why not take it basically. Modest nature, because of course we're not bothered about speed and might as well just boost our special attack even higher. And as I mentioned, Life Orb or Leftovers is up to you, depends how you want to run it, whether you want to run it slightly more defensive or just go full damage with the Life Orb. Similarly, with the EVs, we have obviously maximum health points and special attack for the damage and for the slight bulk, and the last few in defense to shore it up. Using this one is as simple as using another rain Pokemon. You set the rain up using a Politoed, for example, then you switch it in, then you start doing damage, and you're set. If you can combo it with Trick Rooms, so how Politoed go in, Drizzle sets up, your Trick Rooms, and then you switch out, even better because you'll be fast as well, but it really depends on what sort of team you're going to use it in. So that is really going to be it for Drampa. This is a long video, so don't forget to vote for next episode's Pokemon, either Delmise or Kommo-o, and of course the one with the most votes will be covered next episode. But for now, let's see you next time, I suppose. That'll be it for me today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.